CNN's Harry Enton went off script live on air when he called President Trump a soaring eagle. Yes, he says he is not a lame duck, he is a soaring eagle. And we're going to watch this hilarious clip because I don't think that the girl next to him saw that coming. I don't think they're like, wait, can we say that on these airwaves? I don't think so. As we know, CNN has been basically the biggest anti-Trump propaganda machine over the last decade. But you know what? Sometimes Harry Enton here, he tells it like it is. And basically what he's going to go through in some of these numbers is how President Trump is delivering on his promises. Promises made, promises kept. He is going at a breakneck pace. And this is exactly what the people voted for. Okay? And the establishment cannot understand it. They cannot think for a minute that this is what the American people voted for. But it is. And this is why President Trump won the popular vote, the House, the Senate, the White House, just Electoral College. Everything was just a smashing blowout and nobody has any regrets. All right. So before we get into it, my name is Clayton Kearns. As always, please make sure to like this video. Send it to someone you know if you want them to see the work that President Trump's doing. They get into some insane numbers here. And make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So let's get right into it here.
This concern among some folks that Donald Trump would come in for a second term and kind of be a lame duck. He ain't no lame duck. If anything, he's a soaring eagle. What am I talking about here? Let's talk about Trump executive orders in 2025. He's already signed 111 so far. That is the most at this point in a presidency in at least 100 years. In fact, it's the most in any single year, and we're only in April, since Harry S. Truman in the early 1950s. The bottom line is whether you like Trump or you don't like him, you can't say that he's come in and not try to deliver on what he at least believes was his promises on the campaign trail, and he's doing so in historic fashion.
How are people reacting to and feel about Trump's approach?
Yeah, okay, so Trump's approach here, what are we talking about? Trump's approach to presidential power. I think the American people recognize what he's doing here is completely different. We're talking, get this, 86% of the American public believes that Trump's approach to presidential power is completely different from past presidents, compared to only 14% who believe it is in line with precedent. And we're talking about at least 79% of Democrats, independents, and Republicans. So again, you can agree or you can disagree with Donald Trump, but what you can't disagree with is that he's doing things very differently. I have used the Frank Sinatra quote before. He is doing it, quote unquote, my way, and that is what Donald Trump has done throughout both of his presidential terms, and he's certainly doing that, Kate Baldwin, in term number 2.
So completely differently, clearly they agree, but is it, take it a step further, do the people think he has too much, he's taken too much power?
Yeah, this I think is the real question, right? You can believe that he's doing stuff completely differently, but do you think that he has a little too much power or not? And this is interesting. So Trump's presidential power is too much, the right amount, too little. Well, 47% say too much, but then you get 36% who say the right amount. Then you get 17% who say too little. So you're essentially dealing with a majority of the American public, 53%, who do not say that Trump has too much power. They either says he has too little power or the right amount of power. So the idea, that argument that Donald Trump is, quote unquote, a king, that I don't think holds with the American people. It does hold maybe with 47%, but with the majority of folks, they believe Donald Trump's doing something completely differently, and they don't believe he has too much power, and the executive orders he signed certainly suggest he's no lame duck. He is, as I said at the beginning, a soaring eagle.
Soaring eagle, not a lame duck, just like Joe Biden was over the last 4 years. I mean, that guy came in and basically did nothing. I mean, I know that he definitely signed some absolutely destructive executive orders and destructive things into law, but at the end of the day, it wasn't a Joe Biden presidency. It was his handlers. It was the people who were controlling him. I mean, the guy couldn't go out on stage without being assisted up the ramp, down the ramp. I mean, he never took any questions. He was the epitome of a lame duck president. So take a look at these numbers here. Okay, so first of all, this is amazing. Because at first, when they're telling you the poll results, you think like, wait a minute, this is like, is this negative? That most of Americans think that that he is doing things completely different than other presidents? No, they're not, because President Trump is a different kind of man. He's a different kind of president, okay? He came in and he ran on everything that he's doing, okay? Whether it was tariffs, whether it was, getting men out of women's sports, everything that he has done has been completely what he said he was going to do. And yeah, it is completely different than every other president out there. And that's exactly what we voted for. And this is why he was elected. We didn't want the status quo. We didn't want to just go back to business as usual. If we did, we would have elected Kamala Harris. The American people would have elected Kamala Harris, and God knows what our country would be going through right now. Okay, I know the stock market's a little crazy right now, but as I've said in other videos, this is all part of a bigger plan. Long-term gain. A little bit of short-term pain for long-term gain. With Kamala Harris, we would have just kept kicking the can down the road over and over and over again, and eventually a collapse of epic proportions would have happened in our country. But that's not what's going to happen here. 86% of people are saying, yeah, he's doing things completely different. And the American people wanted a change. If they didn't want a change, then guess what? They would have voted for 4 more years of a Joe Biden presidency, which would have been Kamala Harris, because she herself said she would not have done anything different than Joe Biden. And so this one right here is such an interesting stat. Because, the uneducated person might sit there and say, hey, 47% of people say that he has too much power. Well, 53% of people say that he either has the right amount or too little. So as Harry here says, the majority of Americans are completely okay with the actions that President Trump is taking. Whether it comes down to tariffs, whether it comes down to Doge. I mean, isn't it crazy that over all these years, so many Democrats were on board with tariffs, so many Democrats were on board with cutting government spending, but when Trump does it, they're just sitting here having an absolute meltdown. Over the years we had, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, we had Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, all these people saying, there's so much unfair trade going on here with China, and we need to put an end to this. President Trump comes in and says, okay, I'll put an end to it, and then they're freaking out. Makes absolutely no sense. President Trump is cleaning up the border. He's cleaning up our economy. A lot of gunk needed to be cleaned out of our country, especially after the 4 years that we just went through with Biden. Okay, election. I don't even want to get into certain things here because for the YouTube censors, but not going to talk about 2020. But at the end of the day, let's just say that certain things have consequences, especially when those things were done, let's say, outside of the book. And President Trump had to come in and clean up the mess. And that's exactly what he's doing. So for all the people that say that Trump is trying to be king and that we live in a dictatorship or we live, we're under a fascist rule. Guys, at the end of the day, the vast majority of Americans believe that he either has the right amount of power or that he should have more power. And that is huge. And then again, 111 executive orders, and he's not even 100 days into his presidency. This is more than any whole year since 1951. So if he never signed another executive order in all of 2025, he would still have more in 70 years. This is absolutely insane. And so you guys, this is exactly what we voted for. We voted for a change. He said he would bring change, and love him or hate him, that's exactly what he is doing. And even CNN has to admit the truth. So let me know your thoughts, and if you still support President Trump through all of this craziness, this amazing roller coaster, because guys, we seriously need to relish in this and cherish it, because we're going to blink and these 4 years are going to be over. And I got to be honest, I don't know what our country is going to look like starting in 2028. Hopefully we still keep having a Republican president, but Nothing is guaranteed in this country, okay? We had 8 years of Obama. We had 8 years of, nothing is guaranteed. And so this could be some of the most special 4 years that we've seen in a long time, and we need to cherish it. And let's hope to God that President Trump stops getting opposition from the Democrats, and hope that we can perform in the midterms, not this November obviously, but next November, so that we can keep power in Congress and have a good final 2 years of Trump's administration. Because if not, and if he is kneecapped, then he's not going to be able to get anything done, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you're still watching, and I'll talk to you soon.